Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to our webinar. It's Monetizing Data, Unleashing the Revenue Potential of Your ERP Data in CRM. My name is Ali Fisher. I'm the Marketing Operations Manager here at SugarCRM. I'll be your host for this webinar. And with me, we have Dennis Smith, Vice President of Sales in North America, and also Christian Wetter, our Chief of Staff, both from SugarCRM. And with that, I'll pass it off to our presenters. Welcome, Dennis and Christian.
Hey, thank you, Ali. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, we're going to have a pretty fast pace and hopefully a little bit of fun webinar, showing you something a little bit new, showing you a new perspective on data, on information. And so the webinar is really for folks that use both ERP systems and either don't use CRM yet or also have CRM, and a perspective on how to get the most value out of that. So we're going to talk a little bit about kind of that challenge and the opportunity that we have here. I'm going to make a case that, you know what, CRM is a great thing to have in conjunction with ERP, give you a couple of use cases for that. We're going to talk about two levels of integration. We're going to talk about transactional integration, of being able to see the individual transactions in ERP from the CRM. And then we're going to show you kind of an added value that we think is really kind of game-changing. Interpretive integration, where we take the integrated information from ENP and we interpret it for our sellers. And we'll get deeply into that, but we think that's going to be really fun. And then we promised, as the title of this is really turning ERP information into revenue, monetizing ERP information. So it's kind of a variation of turning information into money, but we want to show you exactly, you know, how do we do that for your sellers and for your organization. So let's get right into it. The challenge and the opportunity. So ERP, we're presuming that you have ERP or some variation of ERP, and it contains everything about your customers. It contains their purchasing histories. And for your customer-facing teams, that's really critical information to have access to. It's our customers expect us to have access to a ton of information in real time, and for your users who face that, that's a stressful thing to be faced with, and we need to help them get that information. So we understand that many organizations that have ERP also deploy CRM and marketing automation tools to kind of accomplish some of those things. Now, our big challenge is that sales reps, in order to generate revenue and keep customers and expand the relationships with customers, they have to spend a lot of time searching for information. So Aberdeen Strategy, they did a study where it basically says a sales rep on average spends up to 43 hours every month just searching for the information they need to do their job well. And that's a lot of time. So that's our opportunities. Can we cut down on that? Can we make that easier? Can we have them spend less hours researching information, more time speaking to customers?
I think to that point, Chris, like a lot of times CRMs are deployed to have salespeople or account managers tell other people what they're doing, as opposed to telling them what they should be doing and being of value to that person. And that's really what we're looking to go after today. How do we be of value to that person inside of the application?
Exactly. And that value, a lot of that value is contained in that ERP data. It contains lots and lots of information that could lead a salesperson and a marketer to determine what are cross-sell opportunities, what are upsell opportunities, how do we reduce churn when we see our purchases are declining in a certain area, how do we fill gaps in contracts we have with our customers. If our customers are contracted for 1,000 tons of a certain material, but they're only 20% into that contract and they're not making the whole thing up, how can we help them? How can we help finding what's going on? So that's our mission, is to kind of find the gold in the hills of ERP information. And we need to give a map to the salesperson. Instead of having the salesperson looking through all that information in detail, how can we interpret it for them, give them a map to where there's revenue opportunities, save them the time of having to research that, and have that time instead be spent in front of a customer talking about the value of what we have to offer. So to do that, our point of view is that you deploy CRM with as real-time integration to ERP as possible, to both have the transactional information needed when we're trying to serve a customer with specific questions about orders or invoices, but also provide that interpretive guidance of saying, hey, here are customers that are patterning in this way, or customers like them in a different in the same industry are purchasing these products, but the first customer is not, and maybe that's an opportunity. So we need to kind of do those two things: the real-time access to transactional information and the interpretive guidance, the next best action for our sellers and marketers.
I think a lot of that when we get to the interpretive portion is, if you think about legacy integrations, moving customers, importing, orders or invoices into CRM, only to kind of bloat the CRM instance with tons of information that's hard to digest. So how do we take that information and make it actionable for the seller? Not to, ultimately our goal here is to destroy Excel, right? No pivot tables, not sitting and doing our own little calculations, but actually looking at buying trends and being able to action on them and have your attention brought to them before the customer's gone.
Exactly. And to set the stage to do that, let's go through our point of view. We feel that our job is to make it as easy as possible for our customers, at least costly, least time consuming, least risk, least cost of maintenance, to set up an integration between Sugar and your ERP systems. And we know there's many, many, many different types of ERP systems, depending on what industry and kind of what business patterns you have. Our goal is to provide a uniform model for as many of them as possible, to make it as quick and easy and low cost to maintain as possible. So a little bit about a Sugar. I know there's a lot of customers on this call that know Sugar platform well, but just a quick overview for those who do not for some reason. We have three kind of customer facing components. We have a marketing automation product called Sugar Market, a sales automation product called Sugar Sell, and a service automation product called Sugar Serve. That's our platform, basically. And they run typical marketing, sales, and service use cases. We try to make those use cases as easy and flexible in our product as possible. What does that generally look like? So here's kind of typical screens of Sugar Market, Sell, and Serve. We try to have a uniform view. And we give access to the ERP information inside of our screens. Sometimes, that we try to make them look as similar as possible to the ERP. This is actually a screenshot of Epicor Kinetic that looks very similar to Sugar, and that's always a nice thing when the user interface is balanced. To fulfill the promise of low cost and low maintenance, we maintain kind of a blueprint reference model of where does data reside in our platform versus what typically is in the ERP platform. So you can see here, these are the typical things that we know an integration model typically has. How do we move accounts back and forth? How do we move contacts back and forth? Quotes, quoted line items, orders, order line items, invoices, and the product catalog. Almost every one of our ERP customers and CRM customers have these type of objects, and they want to have visibility of them into the sales organization. So our job is to have a default model of where should things go to make it as fast as possible. In terms of typical use cases, like how do we see our customers take advantage of this? New customer setup. Typically, customers appear in the CRM system before they show up in ERP. So we want to make that as seamless as possible. How do we basically tell ERP that there's a new customer, transfer the information that's relevant to ERP into the ERP data model, and from that point on, synchronize the two back and forth. Having 360, kind of the classic 360 view of your customers is critical. Manufacturers and wholesale distribution companies using ERP systems, probably more than anybody, maintain an existing base of customers. The existing base of customers is where they sell most of their revenue, and having a good grip on the customer is a critical thing. And that relates to account management. How do we manage our accounts on a daily basis? How do we fulfill their needs? How do we make sure their contracts are upheld? How do we deal with their service requests? ERP information is critical to so many of those business use cases. Increasingly, manufacturers deal with marketing communication. That hasn't traditionally been something that manufacturers and distributors were that focused on, but we're seeing it in our organization that more and more of those type of customers are wanting to establish better relationships, mass communication with their distributors and even end user customers. So marketing automation becomes really important. And for marketing content to be effective, it has to be relevant. So having dynamic content that uses ERP purchase history inside the email and marketing and web page content is really valuable and makes marketing more effective. So let's go through the first type of integration. So the transactional ERP integration. So here, what we're trying to do is that out of the box, no code, as fast to configure as possible, make sure that this works both in the cloud and on-premise, between ERP systems in the cloud and on-premise, CRM systems in the cloud and on-premise. Provide that pre-built blueprint that has the common ERP data, orders, quotes, customers, invoices, and such, but make it available to our users completely inside the Sugar standard user interface. And so take a look at what that typically looks like. Here's a Sugar screen. So those of you who know Sugar are familiar with these types of screens. And what we want to do here is we want to have, say, for instance, an account inside of Sugar, but then be able to have access to, in this case, Epicor Kinetic, a popular ERP system, open orders, open invoices, open quotes, and so forth. We might want to see information from ERP like production schedules. We want to get into that and see when the orders that are in our system are actually going to be produced, and so that we know when they're going to be able to delivered. Before somebody quotes something to a customer, we need to quickly be able to check our inventory levels. So being able to reach into the ERP system and check inventory levels is critical, so that you have confidence that you could actually quote or talk about a product knowing that you're going to be able to deliver it. And then kind of from ERP or to ERP from CRM, there's often requests from ERP users, manufacturing responsible users in the organization. What's the demand that's coming in the future? What are pipeline opportunities that exist in CRM that you might not have visibility quite yet in terms of orders? So being able to show that to the ERP users, showing that opportunity, an opportunity line item that's being tracked by salespeople in CRM, showing that to the production users so they can get a clue of like what might be coming in the upcoming months and quarters that they have to be prepared for and have enough raw material on hand to be able to produce. So
I think inside of that, Chris, the importance of having your team working inside of a CRM and then not asking them to repeat that effort for somebody else's, use cases. So I'm asking you to maintain a healthy pipeline. I'm asking you to commit things to forecast and to the products that you have as revenue line. And then at the end of the quarter, I'm going to send you an Excel sheet to say, how many of these widgets are you going to sell next month, and making more busy work for me, even though I've already done it inside of CRM. So here, the ability to push back to ERP and say, here are the opportunities that are coming up next quarter in forecast. Here are the amount of products we're going to need to fulfill those particular orders, and let your demand gen side then be able to action on that data.
And you can see that's a great opportunity to break down some silos between production planning, the product people, the sales people. Having that cross-functional visibility there is valuable. So that's our goal, is to be able to show that and provide that information. So that's what the transactional looks like. So next, Dennis is going to talk in depth about the interpretive integration. Basically, how do we take all this data and remember, we were trying to save the sales rep that 43 hours of time. How are we going to save them that time? By doing the work for them, letting our platform do the work and give them ideas about next best things to do in the system.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. So again, talking about being of value and kind of making complex millions of rows, hundreds of thousands of rows actionable, right? How do I draw the attention of my salespeople, my sales leaders, my marketing team to these are the buyer trends that are happening? And really that's taking the data, interpreting the data, and promoting it to them so that they can action on it. I talked often about being of value as a user. I want my team to want to log into CRM, not have to, not at the end of the day to go enter all their notes. I want them to log in each morning and say, hey, Dennis, you should be concentrating on these things for this seller because of these reasons. And we have that information in ERP, but unfortunately inside of most instances, it's just imported as data, raw, and it's still left to somebody to go back and analyze it, export it, put it in a pivot table, and come up with their plan. So what we're looking at today is the ability to be actionable on that information. So a couple of examples of what we're talking about today is kind of what has the customer purchased? If they're buying bacon from us, they should be buying eggs, right? To break it down to its simple nature. But bundled products, what percentage of wallet do we have from them? So what haven't they purchased from us? What should they be purchasing? So based on their buying analysis, promoting those particular users to go and concentrate on next best product that they should recommend to that particular customer. And then again, pulling those actionable insights into CRM. Often we're pivoting between 3, 4, sometimes up to 10 applications to understand what that profile looks like inside of an account. Let me stay inside of Sugar, but digest the information that's presented to me from the ERP. So all the tools that I need to know 100%, the 360-degree view of their buying analysis directly inside of it on the account level without having to leave my CRM instance. And with that, I'll put this into a live demo. Chris, you can feel free to drag me around as you wish, should you have any valuable insights.
I'll comment.
All right, so you can see. So I'm logged into a standard Sugar dashboard, and immediately I'm presented with 3 simple tiles. Again, just simple configurations. In this case, a couple of what we will call campaigns inside of Sugar. And I have these set up as 3 separate items, 1 to be cross-sell, 2 to be churn, and 3 to be gap. And when I look at that, I'm looking at cross-sell alert, meaning that the customer has bought something from us. In this case, they're buying roofing and siding from us, but they're not buying any rainwear. They're not buying gutters. So when I go to visit that particular account, I might want to promote that particular item. We'll talk a little bit about how that data can also be used inside of marketing campaigns as well. So the ability to see cross-sells, these are things you should be promoting. When we talk about churn, right? Everything's good until it's not. And over the course of a year, we might have, tons of selling efforts going on. We're constantly chasing that next large order. But what about the customers who haven't ordered in a specific period of time? So if they haven't ordered in over 90 days, haven't ordered in over 180 days, these are accounts that need attention. And these being just campaigns that are configured, we can set those guidelines for whatever we want. If it's 15 days for highly transactional businesses, we can stay in front of accounts that slow down, whether that be on a particular product, whether it be on a particular event, right? So if somebody's told me they're going to purchase X from me over the course of the next 12 months, and that's what I have in my forecast, I can have gap alerts sent to me to say, these people are not meeting their purchase criteria. So again, of value to the seller to log in and be presented with the people that they should, bubbling up to the top. These are accounts that you should be working with, either in a positive cross-sell, a defensive to prevent churn, or to fulfill the commitment to what I said they would purchase inside of a year. We're not running any filters. We're not running any reports. We're not getting 100 emails into our inbox that becomes noise. We're simply logging into our CRM instance and being presented with who we should concentrate on. So I'll use my cross-sell alert and I'll pick on Shawnee Service for now. When I'm presented into Shawnee, again, I have my standard Sugar screen, all my standard Sugar objects below, but presented inside of my body here, I can see into my ERP trends. And so here I have kind of a default view of a configurable dashboard, in this case, year to date versus in our current period where we are versus last year. So I can see some trend analysis, what this person is buying from us, kind of a gross profit summary. Again, this is configurable, so it's what's of importance to you. I might want to get an idea of a sales comparison month over month in a running year and see what that difference is. So I can see we're down 500K on this particular account from previous year. Obviously, October, we took a big hit. So it's drawing my attention on the account level to that particular buying trends for this account. Inside of that, I might want to see kind of spend mix analysis. So of other accounts that we have of this size, what allocation do we have by product group? And here I can see we have about 4% of their body purchases. Based on other accounts, we should have about 11%. So I'm using that AI model to kind of see where I should be concentrating in my pitch. If I come down to cooling, I might see that we have a pretty good spend mix ratio. So comparing account to account, helping me cater to and figure out what it is I should be presenting to them next.
And that's an important area for our customers to be able to talk about their segments, the way they look to segment their customer sets. So So for instance, if you're looking to, provide components for specific type of machines in an industry that you care about, you define the peer group in that industry, whether they're large segments or small segments, you define them. And then you could take any one of the customers in that segment and compare their purchase patterns to the other customers in that segment. And that, again, helps the seller kind of get ideas of like, everybody else in this industry are buying, bacon from us. We need to make sure that customer A here buys bacon as well.
And if you're working as a manager with your teams, our goal is to make our C's B's and our B's A's. So if I have one particular rep that's doing well on a particular product SKU, maybe I want to part them up with somebody else to find out, how are you working with that customer? How are you presenting that you're having such great results? So being able to kind of spread the wealth across the whole team, and we'll take a look at that in a moment. Getting back to that 44 hours a month where we're kind of building out profiles, maybe before we're going on site, the action of creating a snapshot, right? So across a period, what is this person purchased from us? And I've generated this in advance, as it can take a little bit of time going through a lot of data, but give me a professional style PowerPoint that just goes through all the different items that they purchased. So configurable template, if I'm going to sit down with a particular buyer, these are the things that you purchased from me in the past. This is what you fulfilled, where you sit as an average spend. So really complex, professional looking presentation at the click of a button. And all of that is generated right back to the link inside of the instance. So quarter over quarter, as I'm going on site, I can get the changes in that particular document.
A good example of shaving a few hours off that 43 hours by compiling this and kind of being our best selves, like producing the best kind of model of what we would like to bring with us to a customer and show them about their purchase patterns and the different opportunities and that we have to work together on.
So here I have an example of setting monthly targets. So if I've set a monthly target of 300K per account, where do we sit? In this particular instance, I'd have it set on a monthly level, but you certainly could set it by product level as well. So just being able to see kind of where we are stacking month over month and our differential, as opposed to what are the targets that I've set for that particular record. So interesting kind of from an overview perspective, giving me the glossy on what's going on with that particular account. But what if I wanted to dig in to actual data? What if I wanted to see from an inquiry perspective, what's going on with the purchasing trends just inside of Shawnee service? So here I might want to say, you know what, let me go ahead and pull down my inquiry view. And maybe I want to see by category for this particular account, how am I doing? I can see, wow, I'm down 432 this period over last period. Where am I losing that particular revenue? In this case, inside of cooling and drive belts. Maybe I want to pull out what manufacturers am I losing revenue to? So here are the manufacturers inside of one particular product SKU and the differential that I'm down. So maybe I want to pull out the Bear rep or the INA rep to come with me on a particular ride along. And we can actually drill down then into that particular instance and say, okay, inside of that, show me what items I'm losing. So here is the erosion. Again, this obviously being an automotive example, but any example of data feeds where we're taking invoice line items from ERP and getting down to the nitty gritty on where are we losing revenue or gaining revenue for a particular account. If this particular query is of interest for me, I could save this for future use. So if I did want to go through kind of the click and drag, I could save that particular action and just execute it against the account. But giving some of the ability to very quickly in Google-like speeds, analyze what's going on quarter over quarter, period over period inside of an account really directs me as to where my sales energy should be. So calling, talking about sports, talking about the weather is not getting me new business. Finding out why I'm eroding 70K worth of body parts is. So this is not on the line item level. I'm not looking at individual invoices. I'm just looking at the coalition of a buying analysis over a period of time, which is great. On the account level, give me those actionable items, still giving me all the action to my CRM functionality, not having to pivot to 12 different screens or Excel sheets on another page. Let me work where I work directly inside of my CRM instance. So from a individual perspective, excellent. Now, from a manager perspective, for my team, here I have my actionable data insights across my entire group. So I'll skip the dashboard functionality as we kind of reviewed that. But again, this is showing for all of my particular users. But now when I come to my inquiry page, I'm working with my entire team in region. So if I want to say, you know what, for all of my branches, let's see how my team is doing. All right, so my central team is getting clobbered. They're down 266K period over period. Let's drill into central and now get a look at the sales reps inside of that particular group. And here I can see that Kurt is absolutely getting smoked year over year. Maybe Kurt's getting ready to walk on us. Let's go take a look at his actual customers, right? So what customers in his region? St. Michael Spares is down almost $1 million year over year. What's going on? Well, I know immediately these are the people that we need to go visit, right? Or I can point his attention to certainly go get them. But if I'm doing a ride along or I'm replacing Kurt, I know that the accounts that we need to concentrate on right away. And inside of St. Michael's, maybe I want to see, okay, where is it? What products are we losing on? So again, coming to manufacturers, I'm just simply walking down a pivot table and can see where those pieces are where we need to concentrate on. If I were to come down into that, I can even go down to the actual part type or item and see what items are eroding from my pocket share of this particular account. Again, I have the ability to save those items. At any point in time, I can walk back through that list to change those sorts. So we're taking large volumes of information, we're putting it inside a CRM where it belongs, and we're allowing the users to interact with it at the place where they work. So linking right back to the accounts, to the contacts, to the people, but driving that with the purchase trends and analysis that are coming in from ERP. The last piece of that, again, when we talked about the churn, the gap, or the cross-sell, are really just those individual campaigns that we have set up. So here I can see that cross-sell opportunity list, all the accounts that are in that particular item. And here I can take the option to export that data and push it directly into my marketing engine so that I can run a campaign on these particular accounts. So by using that cross-sell opportunities, you're buying bacon, but not the eggs, I can immediately put them on a relative campaign inside of Sugar Market. And as Christian mentioned earlier, all of the context around the emails, the templates, all relative to their purchase history. So no guesswork, actionable insights directly coming out of ERP and serving it directly to the seller at the point of where they're working and not making them, again, hunt and peck and query to find out who they should be working with, but dragging their attention directly to those particular accounts that need service.
And I think you could probably relate to this. This is kind of the Monday morning scenario. Your sales reps are coming into the office or waking up to their home offices and trying to figure out, what should I do this week, right? Should they spend 43 hours trying to hunt and peck through their opportunities? Or is it better to have the list of the most high value opportunities right there in front of them to then start digging into on that Monday morning and then making the most of the week?
I think the other thing is, bringing the technology to the meeting. If I'm sitting with the tablet in the room with a buying agent from one of my customers and I have action to this data and I can ask those questions in real time, I'm not only showing prowess to that particular customer, but I'm in the instance where I should be capturing that meeting anyway. So I'm removing one extra step. I'm not writing things down on the back of a bar napkin and then when I get home at night, update my CRM. I'm working inside of that instance with the actionable insights that are being fed to me from ERP.
Excellent, Dennis. Thank you for that demo. And I wanted to show one screen again, back to the whole Monday morning example and back to the example of how do we help a seller kind of understand what is the next best action I can take with an account. And that's what we do show on this particular screen. If we're on here at Shawnee Service, we're wondering, what can I do here that would be the most productive for myself and the customer? Well, here they are. Here's 4 suggestions. These are the next best things you can do with this customer. Figure out why they're churning, see why their contract is behind schedule, look at a cross-sell opportunity. Here's an opportunity to sell something different. And then the second one we just wanted to highlight, we spent a bit of time highlighting it, is about the customer purchases versus the peer group. How does this customer compare to customers like them? That is a great source of information on future opportunities. Then I think Dennis, took us through the BI area of this, kind of the predefined patterns of how to analyze the data, how to quickly get to common use cases where you could do these type of BI scenarios using Power BI or Tableau or of Click. But here what you see is the patterns of analysis is already provided for you. Our platform is providing that so that you don't have to pay to build all this and maintain the data analysts required to support these type of analysis over time. And with that, here's our takeaways, kind of the conclusion of like, how did we try to show that we were turning ERP information into money? What's the ROI on basically owning this system? Identifying gaps in the customer buying patterns, right? To reduce the churns, reduce the ability of competitors to come in and take our business away. Let's notice it before the opportunity is gone. Have the ability to cross-sell our full product portfolio. We have so many opportunities as we build new product categories, build new products. We want to get it out into the market. Who are the best candidates for showing that? And at the same time, make sure we're considering our higher margin product lines, right? Before we sell something that we don't make a lot of money on, let's make sure we present opportunities for high margin products. That is a lot of bang for the buck. And then a couple of times we talked about benchmarking customers. Benchmark the customers versus the peer to basically provide value to your customers. Have consultative selling. These are valuable product categories that people like you in industries and use cases like yours are using successfully from us that you should consider. And that taxi or Uber report where in one click we provide a full business review, a full presentation quality presentation that we can bring with us to the field, send to the customer, use to collaborate with the customer, and saving time generating that and generating a really nice professional image and delivering value. So that is the content we had. We have an offer. If you'd like to dig deeper, spend an hour with us, we'll look at your use cases, your product mix, how would that look like in this system. We're happy to do proof of concepts and prove out what we're doing. Here's Dennis's email address, dennis.smith@sugarcrm.com. Send
Chris is willing to do everything, and then Dennis's email gets shown up. Good stuff.
No, I think, it takes a village. We'll all collaborate on it.
For sure. And, I think, from a experience perspective, working in the CRM space for close to 20 years now, which gets harder and harder to say, so many iterations of integration and what that means and what it's meant over the years as far as moving data from one system into another system, keeping them synchronous, moving things back and forth. But the ability to make it actionable and in a kind of a low tech, but a high value to the user. We're not, we can train somebody in minutes to work on these things. And it really, really raises the bar as far as value to the end user. So I'm super excited and happy to speak to anybody about it.
Excellent. I'll join in, Dennis.
We had one question came in and said, we recently went live with Epicor Kinetic and have an integration between it and Sugar, and would love to learn more on how to configure many of the examples that were showcased, such as seeing the inventory open, orders, shipments, etc. So that'd be a good thing for the workshop.
Perfect. Yeah,
absolutely.
All right, there. We'll reach out to you and make sure you get in on that. We have another question. Any special advice you would like to give to make sure that there is user adoption?
Yeah, user adoption happens when there's a clear purpose for doing something. It's like you pick a specific use case, something we're trying to accomplish in the business, and you do at it full. You have enablement, you have monitoring, you have metrics on it, and you kind of pick your battles. You can't do everything all at once everywhere, right? So by focusing in and going wide on it and making sure there's support across the organization, buy-in across the organization, enablement across the organization, taking that seriously, taking it seriously, not just at the time of implementation, but planning for it in the support and in the time between implementation and full adoption. Sometimes that's called the valley of despair, when somebody's presented with a new process and they don't know how it works or how they're supposed to participate in it, and they're upset about that. And our job is to make sure that valley of despair is as shallow as possible and as short as possible to ramp them up. And that takes a little bit of time, and realizing that that's in front of us is important in order to avoid it.
Awesome. I see a question coming in from Rachel. Rachel, long time no speak. It's been a while. Hope everything's well. We're working with a couple of different items in here. I'm happy to reach out with Joe Thompson and take you through what's required to get it up off the ground. And then Jeffrey's got a question on SAP. Happy to get in touch and talk about which connector we can use to partner SAP up with Sugar. There are many different options from the enterprise level to kind of a core just SFTP type move. So it depends on the size of the data that we're looking to move from Sugar to, from SAP to Sugar. Happy to take a one-off and have a note to reach back out to you.
I have a couple other questions. I think this is relating to Rachel's question as well. As someone asked, how are you getting the ERP data into Sugar? It's basically what is needed to accomplish everything. So
from an ERP side, there's really no limit. I've done integrations with over 200 inside of this connector, so I'm sure that we have view to it. It is a nightly SFTP upload from ERP through an SFTP site. So as long as you can, we'll give you a template. You can export into that format, and we'll arrange for it to be uploaded from the SFTP and digested into Sugar for presentation.
So it's an initial kind of data mapping into our core model. So we have this core model or blueprint that we mentioned earlier, and then we adjust basically the individual ERP system to fit into that core blueprint, and then that gets digested automatically every day. And on top of that, we also we try to make sure we also have that real-time view. In addition to the kind of BI analysis view, we'd like to have the real-time view. I think it's important to provide real-time views of inventory statuses, things that you kind of have to be confident that the numbers you're using are up to the minute. So getting real-time views is also something that we seek to do when we're deploying this.
We have another question of how long does this take to deploy?
Dennis, do you want to take that one?
Sure. I think from usually it's from the transactional items, it's with a matter of weeks, usually within 4 weeks. Obviously, we usually go back 2 or 3 years of purchase data, but it's going to take some time to kind of build the forward looking inside of those individual campaigns. So it really depends on the size of the data set and what we're moving.
So single digit weeks.
Perfect. Can any ERP be integrated, or is there a set list of API connectors?
Again, as long as you can extract data in a CSV file from your ERP, we can digest it. From a real-time perspective, that conversation gets murky as far as what's available on the other side via API. We have some some system integration tools that we can use as well that can assist with that.
And as Dennis said earlier, we have about 150 known ERPs that we're covering today. There are many specialized and maybe even localized kind of country ERPs out in the world. So feel free to challenge us, but we've covered 150 of what we think is the most common. So I think we got a pretty good shot at getting it.
And we had another one asked, we use Minx as our ERP. So if that was possible.
We'll look that up. I have to look at that and see if it's on our list of 150.
And they said they have an on-prem Sugar instance in that case. So we will get back to you and be sure.
Yep. Thank you for attending. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Ali. Thank you for spending some time with us. As Ali promised in the beginning, we will be sending out the recording of this so that if you want to share it amongst your peers, feel free to do so. Remember Dennis's email address, dennis.smith@sugarcrm.com. And thank you on behalf of SugarCRM, and see you next time.
Thanks, Ali. Thanks, Christian. Thanks, team.
Thank you, everyone.